So right now, standing in the Bushuis. In the beginning of the 17th century, it became the head office, or one of the head office spaces of the VOC. This is the place where the VOC would have their annual meetings between the directors of the board of Amsterdam and the directors of the boards from other cities. And of course, it was also the main office of the board of directors of the people in Amsterdam, right? The aristocrats that ruled the VOC.
Yeah, I learned the colonial history of the colonial ties between Dutch and Indonesia, the Netherlands and Indonesia, since I don't know, I was in middle school, I think, or was it elementary? I think it was middle school, in Indonesia because I was born and raised in Jakarta, and yeah, it's just a part of the history lessons. Um, I think that was the first time I was first exposed to it.
The most famous captain of the VOC is called Jan Pieterszoon Koen. He went to Indonesia, to Java. He destroyed the city. He built a new city on top of that. It's now called Jakarta. It's the capital of Indonesia. Jan Pieterszoon Koen also sailed to the Banda Islands. And he killed entire populations. Estimated is around 15,000 people to get his hands on the nutmeg trade.
But it's also just everywhere. I mean, we have Independence Day every year, and kids join in that. So like you kind of always known that that history exists, even though you might not understand the weight of it.
The concrete idea for this article came about when I pitched the idea to a friend of mine who runs a website called Failed Architecture. And he linked me up with Sonia, who's a photographer, and we got the idea to write an essay about the colonial history in relationship to the city of Amsterdam, and to make it into a photo essay as well.
The initial email, I said, hey, I have the beginnings of a photo essay in my head. I'd like to, do a sort of architectural photography investigation of, links of Amsterdam architecture to the Dutch darker colonial past. And I actually didn't know if there was anything, so I thought this stuff must be hidden in plain sight.
I know about the bus house actually because of this documentary. I didn't know it before. I think I heard it a couple times before, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not surprised that the UvA has a what do you call it, a university that used to be a VOC meeting point.
I think the country, and also then, by default, the UvA, they all rely on a bit of a myth, kind of. I mean, I think every nation has its myth, and the Dutch myth is one of ingenuity and entrepreneurship and hard work. And I think the UvA doesn't depart from that attitude. I think it has the same view of itself.
I mean, I can only speak again mainly as a political science student, and I want to say UvA's efforts. Not to. I don't appreciate it. No, I don't know. It's not that I don't appreciate it. It's not too obvious, I'd say.
The feeling that I had mostly was, I think, one of catharsis. I think it's kind of an energy that you walk around with, knowing that not only this nation's history, but particularly this city's history is so tied to the colonial past, and in that sense tied to the fate of my ancestors. But the Bushuis to me was reflective of everything else in the city, really. Yeah. I think a significant percentage maybe of the people that really doesn't know, right? Like there's always that. If you're not particularly, curious about your city's history, then you might never find out, and the educational system doesn't necessarily make it easy for you.
You walk through the city center of Amsterdam, you see all these beautiful houses, but remember, lots of these houses, they have been built on the blood, sweat and tears of African people, Asian people, indigenous people and Indian people, right? And I think that's always important to point that out.
What I'm trying to say is, it's not like I saw the city in a new light, which I think happened for a lot of people that maybe read the article and hadn't thought about this history before.
It's so beautiful, but it's so messed up. Like,
Yeah.
And it just makes me so mad how I have to live like this. I have to live like this, but it just makes me so mad how it's so not fair that I have to pay this much while the wealth of my country, of my family, of my ancestors has been stolen. I have to pay for for that much. Now I don't know. That makes me more mad than seeing like historical symbols. I mean that makes me mad, sure, but just how that history lasted up until today, economically, materially, that's what makes me. That what makes me, the most mad, I guess. Does that make sense?